So, Cody is the Chief Strategist and Founder at Assisted Reach, a business intelligence focused SEO and content marketing agency that specializes in using data to help make better organic search traffic acquisition decisions. He is also the co-founder at linkintelligence.io, an analytics company that helps brands and agencies acquire an in-depth understanding of the link building landscape in their industry using data. How's that, Cody?
That was perfect.
Awesome. Then take it away.
Awesome. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. So today we're going to be talking about a business intelligence approach to link building. And I'm going to be kind of bouncing back and forth from the slide deck to one of our reports that we use to answer a lot of the questions and things that we're going to be going over. So first off, who am I? I thought my intro was good, so we'll breeze through this. I'm the founder and chief strategist at Assisted Reach, the co-founder at linkintelligence.io. Previously, I was the senior SEO and UX analyst at DriveTime, which is one of the largest used car dealers in the US. And I've written for sites like Ahrefs, Crazy Egg, Traffic Think Take. So first, I think we start with some definitions. So what is business intelligence? If you were to Google this, the definition would be business intelligence leverages software and services to transform data into actionable insights that inform an organization's strategic and tactical business decisions. But really, it's just a focus on this definition in terms of transforming data into actual insights. Our goal is to be able to make better decisions with the use of data. And so how we do that, we obviously have to start with data. So in this day and age, as SEOs, we're super lucky. We've got an incredible amount of data. We've got crawl data from Screaming Frog and Deep Crawl. We've got link data from Ahrefs and Majestic. We even have like marketing attribution event data from like Snowplow and Visible. So we've got all this data at our fingertips. And so business intelligence provides the framework and methodology for getting the most out of this data. So at its core, it provides decision makers with quantitative measurements that reduce uncertainty in decision making. And so like when I talk about analytics and data, a lot of people are kind of concerned about accuracy and things like that. When it comes to data and analytics, the sole purpose is to reduce uncertainty in decision making, not make perfect decisions with zero uncertainty. And so I think that's an important thing to point out. So to talk about a couple misconceptions about data and analytics before we get into this. So there's a great book by Douglas Hubbard. If you're interested in this world of business intelligence, analytics, machine learning, he wrote a book called How to Measure Anything. And in it, he quotes, anything can be measured. If something can be observed in any way at all, it lends itself to some type of measurement method. No matter how fuzzy the measurement is, it's still a measurement if it tells you more than you knew before. And those very things most likely to be seen as immeasurable virtually always are solved by relatively simple measurement methods. And so a lot of times, like, this stuff is blown up to be more complex than it actually is. But with a little critical thinking and some context-specific knowledge, you can actually come up with pretty simple solutions to help you make much better business decisions, and in this case, related to SEO. The second misconception is some measurement isn't perfect, so it's not useful. So I completely disagree with that. Like I kind of said before, like all decisions that are made with some degree of uncertainty. And so the whole point of measurement is reducing uncertainty using some sort of quantitative means. And so a good example of this is, like, if you look at Ahrefs link index, you'll hear a lot of people say, like, it's incomplete, so you can't use this data set. I completely disagree with that. It's a sample of a population. And so it'd be really difficult for Ahrefs to crawl the entire internet, but it crawls enough to where the data is still useful to us because it represents somewhat of the population. So now as we jump into this, we're going to be kind of using the approach that we like to take for business intelligence, and using that to apply that to link building. And so the first step when you're using BI to help you answer a question is start with the question. And so in this talk, we're gonna be answering 5 questions. So the first one is, why do we need to be building links? This is a question that you'll get from maybe a CMO or a director of marketing, someone who's not intimately involved in the day-to-day activities of an SEO. And so you need to show them with data, why do we need to be building links? And that's to get buy-in. Second, how many links do we need to build total? That's a question a lot of SEOs actually ask. How much is this going to cost us? How many links do we need to build to each page? And then what is the anchor text we should use when we're building all these links? And so we're going to use data to answer all of these questions. So when you embark on like a BI feed, it's super important to understand the context of the questions that you're asking. I think this is honestly the most difficult part of applying BI to any industry, is you need to be able to intimately understand the context related to whatever the question is that you're trying to solve. And so as it relates to link building, there's a bunch of different questions. So like one example of context specific knowledge that's super important as it relates to link building is understanding domain authority and then link equity that's getting passed to an individual page. And so the way we solve this problem is we think about it in 2 ways. We call it domain level and page level. And so the domain level you can think of as all the link equity that's going to a domain. You can also think of like Ahrefs domain rating, Moz's domain authority. That's what we kind of classify as like that domain level. And then page level is the individual URL that you're trying to rank. There's a certain number of links that you need to build to certain pages. And so that distinction is super important to understand. Another example is like, how does PageRank work? What makes one link better than another link? What role does anchor text play in link building? You need to understand the context of link building to be able to answer a lot of these questions. And so these are some examples. Next, we need to figure out where we're getting this data from. So when it's link data, Ahrefs and Majestic are our go-tos. I think Ahrefs has a really comprehensive data set. And then Majestic has some really useful descriptive statistics that allow us to deem like the topic of a link and like strength and stuff like that. And so we're going to be using Ahrefs and Majestic in this report. So answering this first question, why do we need to be building links? The simple answer is because your competitors are, but without data, this is way too subjective and can be written off as an opinion. So assume here that you're speaking to maybe a CMO or someone like that who doesn't really understand the nature of link building. What you can do is show them a link velocity chart of referring domains over time. And so I'm gonna pop over to this report real quick. And so you can see we've got 3 domains loaded in here. Sorry, this is gonna have to reload. So we've got 3 domains in here. We'll assume that we're running this report for deangraziosi.com. And this is 3 sites that are in the like personal growth, personal development space. And so what we can see here is that this tonyrobbins.com website has a ton more referred domains than deangraziosi.com. So this simple visualization tells that story like, hey, look, here's how many more links that these 2 sites have versus deangraziosi.com. Then you overlay this with organic traffic, and it makes the argument really clear. Like, hey, we definitely need links to rank, and if we want to have the same amount of organic traffic as these sites, then this is something that we're going to have to invest in. So that's a pretty simple visualization to answer that question. So question 2, how many links do we need to build in total? And so what we're going to do is we're going to visualize Ahrefs domain rating and the number of referring domains for each domain that we use in our analysis. And so we come back to this report. What we'll be able to see here is domain rating buckets, So 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, all the way up to 100. And then the number of referring domains that land in each one of these buckets. And so one of the reasons we want to visualize it this way is we get a sense of the strength of each link. Obviously, these 90 to 100 links are more than likely going to be our stronger links versus these 0 to 9 links. And so that begs the question, are all these links the same? And the answer there is no. So there's a huge variance in terms of like quality. There's actually links that can be toxic. And so what we want to do is, rather than looking at all of those links, we want to filter out links that are low quality links. And so the way we do this is by creating what's called we call it a quality flag. The metrics that we use for our quality flag is a domain rating greater than 20, organic traffic greater than 1,000 visits per month to the domain, and then the link is a follow link. And so what we can do is come back to the report. We'll select true for this quality flag. And now what you'll notice is that this 18,000 number dropped to around 2,400. That 10,000 number dropped to around 1,600. And so this is really typical. Like when we run these reports, we'll usually see only 10 to 20% of the links actually that we would deem as quality. And the reason we're filtering these out is there's so many links that you wouldn't want to build that there's no point in including them in the analysis if you're not going to be building those links. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how many links we want to build. So we apply that quality flag to remove those lower quality links. And if you want to be even more, I guess, strict with the quality flag, you can also add in Majestic trust flow and citation flow. And we'll use trust flow and citation flow greater than 12. And so you can see here, if we go back to this report and I apply the second quality flag, it looks like BrianTracy.com has 556 total quality links. Dean Graziosi's got 37, and then TonyRobbins.com has 800. And so that helps us figure out where we are at our present state, but it doesn't account for the links that are going to be built over a time period where we're going to be building links to try and catch up. So if we're DeanGraziosi.com, we've got a lot of work to do ahead of us. And so what we're going to need to do is figure out how many links on average our competitors are building, and then apply that and add that to the number that we just calculated. And so what we like doing is calculating an average links per month over a 12-month period and a median links per month over a 12-month period. The reason we are using both is because sometimes you'll see these big spikes in the links that are built for 1 or 2 given months, and an average, that outlier will really skew. And so we use median to account for those outliers. And so if we bring this all together, it's some pretty simple math. So we know that the site, Brian Tracy had 556 links, and we had 37 if we were DeanGraziosi.com. So that link gap right there is 519 links total. And then we know the velocity was 27. And then we were building around 2 links per month. So we're gonna say the velocity is 25. And let's assume that we want to close the link gap in 24 months. So we want to build all of these links over a 24-month period. So when we apply all of these variables into this formula, we get about 47 links per month, or 1,100 links total. And so that answers the second question: how many links do we need to build? So question number 3, how much is link building going to cost? And so cost is super important, obviously, because it's half of the ROI equation. And so when you start building backlinks and you want to get a sense of the cost, if you're working with an agency or if you're doing this in-house, what you can do is just calculate an average cost per link. And so if you are working with an agency, it's pretty easy to ask, and this is the number that they should know. And then all you really have to do is apply the link calculation that you just found and multiply that by the total cost per link. And so there's 47 links per month that we're going to need to build at, let's assume, $300 per link. And so that's around $14,000 per month. And if we look at that over a 2-year period, that's around $338,000 in total investment. The next question, how many links do we need to build to each page? So we can receive a positive ROI on link building before we build all of those links. So I don't want to scare anyone, and because you see 338,000 and that's a pretty large number. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's all going to be cost out of pocket and you're not going to be generating any revenue during that period of time. And so it's important to be strategic about what pages you're building those links to. And so obviously you don't get to build 1,100 links in a day. That's going to take some time. And so, and also you need to distribute that across various pages. And so what we like to do is build links to revenue generating pages or internally linking to revenue generating pages that we're building links from. And so the way we like determining which pages to build links to, the first is using Ahrefs keyword difficulty. So if you use a Ahrefs keyword difficulty greater than 25, that their keyword difficulty metric is all based on links. And so you don't want to build links to a URL where none of the other ranking URLs have links to them. And so Ahrefs keyword difficulty is good for weeding this out. And so we usually use 25 or greater because that means all of the ranking URLs have links built to them. And so that's a good first gauge. Linkable assets are obviously another good piece of content to build links to: ultimate guide, data studies, infographics, and then revenue generating pages, again, assuming that the ranking URLs have a significant number of links. And so generally, like if we're talking product pages, those pages do not usually have a ton of links pointing at them. And so in that case, you'll use a blog post, make sure that blog post has an Ahrefs keyword difficulty above 25, so we know we can build a significant number of links to that blog post, and then internally link that to the revenue generating page. So for this example, we chose 3 keywords, and generally we choose 3 because there's not really, like when you're on a link building campaign, you're generally not building links to more than 3 pages at a time because there's obviously a lot that goes into that. So you build links to a few pages, and then once you're done building those links or the campaign ends, then you move on to 3 more pages. And so in this case, we've got the 3 keywords: how to find your passion, how to set goals, and habits of successful people. And so you can see the keyword difficulty on all of these keywords is above 25. And then the important thing too is like when you're pulling these links, we like pulling what we deem as like the main keyword. And so the main keyword is the keyword that drives the greatest amount of traffic or clicks, and not search volume. So search volume can be extremely misleading because of like SERP features and that sort of thing. And so what we like to do is find a keyword and then plug that keyword into Google, see which URLs rank, and then plug those URLs into Ahrefs and see which keyword drives the most amount of traffic. And so for how to find your passion, lifehack.org ranks #1 for, I think, a bunch of these passion related or finding your passion related terms, but we can clearly see that the traffic to how to find your passion dwarfs all of the other keywords. And so that's going to be our main keyword, and the keyword where we're going to be pulling backlinks from all of these, from all the URLs that are ranking. So we're going to pull, we like pulling one link per domain, or that also means just like a referring domain. So what we're going to do is create the same visualization that we looked at before, but at the URL level. So number of referring domains by domain rating bucket. We're going to apply the same quality flag so that we remove low quality links that we wouldn't want to build. And then we're going to calculate the average and median referring domains for each domain rating bucket, choose the max between the average and median, and then add all of that up to get the number of links that we need to build. So I'm going to go back to this and go through that a bit slower. So if we go to this page level analysis, we can flip the keyword to habits of successful people, and then we'll apply our quality flag. And so this gives you an idea of the quality links pointing to each one of these URLs. And so we calculate the average of this column, which is 1, the average of this column, which is 3. Then we do the median for all of these as well. And then we take the max between the average and the median. And then we end up with, adding them up, we end up with 13 links. And so the next piece to this is calculating link velocity. So now that we know there's a 13 link gap, we're going to calculate the median and average links over the last 3 months for each ranking URL. And so what you'll often see when you're looking at a SERP is the URL that's ranking number 1 or 2 is going to have the largest link velocity, and that's because they're acquiring links naturally, just because of the nature of them ranking first or second for the keyword. And so we're going to calculate that average and median. So I'll come back here. And so we can see the median for CNBC is 4, and the average is 4. A lot of times the average and median will be the same. Again, the only point to having both of these is if there's outliers, the average will be skewed, but the median will account for that. And so in this case, it's around 4 links. So we'll come back and we'll apply the exact same formula. So we'll take the link velocity times the months to close the gap in, add that to the link gap, and then divide by the months to close the gap. So our link gap is 13 links. And so let's say you have a page that's already ranking and you've got 2 links to that page. You're going to subtract that from the link gap and also velocity. So let's say you're building on average 1 link per month naturally. You want to subtract that, but in this case, we're not. So these numbers are 0. So the link gap is 13, link velocity is 4. The month to close the gap is 3 months. So let's say we want to build all these links over a 3-month period. And so that ends up being 8 links per month, or around 24 links total. And so when we look at where we land here, 24 links will get us to a solid spot. And then like anything, you have to test and kind of see where things end up. And so let's say you build 15 links, maybe that's all you need. But this is more an exercise in planning and cost forecasting. And so, yeah, we'll use 24 links in this case. And so to bring this all together, we know from a domain level perspective that we need to build 1,128 links. And that's to get our domain authority or domain rating or whatever terminology you want to use to describe that up in line with where our competitors at, because then we know when we publish blog posts or content, it's going to be as easy for us to rank as it is going to be for them, assuming all things else are equal, which usually they're not. But for the sake of this analysis, let's assume they are. Then we know we've just conducted the page level analysis for habits of successful people. We're going to go through that exact same exercise to find how many links we want to build to the URL, how to find your passion, and how to set goals. And so after doing that, we know there's 35 links we're going to build to how to find your passion, and 230 links that we're going to want to build to how to set goals. That's a super competitive keyword from a link perspective. And so that adding those up, we end up with 291 links. And so then we just take the difference between this domain level and then the total number of links. And then we know we've got 837 links left to build to reach what our target is. And so essentially all you do is once you've finished your link building campaign for these 3 keywords, you rinse and repeat, you run the analysis for 3 new keywords, and you'll determine how many links you're going to need to build. And you just keep subtracting that from the link gap until you catch up to where your competitors' authority levels are. And like I was saying before, when it comes to link building, your strategy should dynamically change as the URL responds to the links you're building. So make sure that you're tracking all this stuff, you're watching closely. And again, like if you build 10 links and you're ranking number 1, there's no incremental value of building 10 more links to that page unless your competitors are, and you're just trying to stay ahead. But from like a pure return perspective, that's something that you want to pay attention to and waste as little as possible. So question 5 is, what anchor text should we use when building links? And so this is a super common question. And there's a few ways to approach this. I'll show you the way we approach it. So we'll flip to this anchor text tab, and we'll filter the keyword for habits of successful people. And so the first distribution I like to look at is the anchor type distribution by keyword. And so we can see here the percentage of keywords that are exact, other, partial, and URL. So exact in this case would be they're using the exact keyword as the anchor text, so habits of successful people. Other would be things like click here, check out this article, stuff like that. Partial would be using any one of these three words. So habits, successful, and people. And then URL would just be kind of like the naked URL, where you're linking with just the www.website.com. And so once we have this anchor type distribution, now we know kind of what our targets are. And then what we want to do is just take a look at the follow type distribution by keyword as well. And so this case, there's 69% of the links are followed links, and then 31% are no followed links. This is just a ratio that you want to keep in mind. And the idea here is not to be an exact science. It's to stay in line with where your competitors are, so you don't stand out in the SERP. And it's purely a safety perspective. I haven't seen any like data-driven studies where all of this stuff has been proved, but especially when it comes to link building, which obviously Google frowns upon, it's in I think your best interest to be as safe as possible. And so now that we know the anchor type distribution that we're shooting for and the follow type distribution, I like to analyze the individual URLs for outliers. And so in this visualization, you can see the keyword on the left-hand side, the URLs, and then where they rank. And so you can see CNBC and Soulsot.com both have #1 rankings. That's because one of them is a featured snippet. And so then what we can do is we could just take a look at the distribution by URL. And so sometimes what you'll see in this case is like the top 1 or 2 URLs will have a different anchor type distribution than some of the others. And that's a really important piece of information that you want to take into account when you're selecting anchor text. And so in this case, we don't really have that. Most of these distributions look fairly in line. You can see like Indeed.com has mostly URLs here, which could pose a problem. Maybe that's why they're ranking #10. But yeah, you can pull out some pretty interesting insights by looking at this at the URL level. And then the last thing I like to do is use competitors' anchor text to understand context and then inspire your own. And so if we go back to this report, what you'll see is all of the anchor text for this keyword. So null just means that the anchor text was blank. You'll see actually a lot of blank anchor text, either images, things like that. But then as we scroll through here, we can get a sense of how people are linking to all of these URLs. And so if we look at like, let's see, use Sundays to plan out her upcoming week, that's a specific habit of a successful person. And so that's like a cool piece of context that you can use when you're going about either like prospecting for links, or when you're selecting the anchor text. This would be like a good section. So if there's an article about the habits that successful people have, then it makes sense obviously to link from one of the habits. And so you can kind of go through here. A lot of these will be like titles. So 9 habits of highly successful people is probably the title of one of these articles. Successful habits, you can see is partial match anchor text. So if you're looking for partial, and then, so yeah, you can just essentially grab a bunch of really interesting context specific clues here and use that when you're building your anchor text. Because a lot of times what you'll see when people are building anchor text is they, I guess, lose creativity, or they've built so many links they don't really know the variations of anchor text that they should be using. And so this will give you those ideas. And so yeah, that's all we're going to go through in terms of this report. But in terms of like the methodology and your approach to using business intelligence. I hope this was useful in that sense, where you can apply this same methodology and help answer other questions. Maybe it's not even SEO, but there's tons of ways you can apply this. Start from a question, understand context, and then using data to help answer and reduce uncertainty in the questions that you're asking. So yep, that's a business intelligence approach to link building. Thank you.
Awesome, Cody. Thanks a lot for that. I really enjoyed it. And of course, we've got a couple of questions for you. If you'd like to take a couple now, and later we'll have the Q&A panel, and further questions can be posted by then. But now we can take 5 minutes. Is that okay with you?
Yep, totally. Yeah.
So Mohammed wants to know, what's your metrics of using Haro?
Yeah, I know a few guys that use Haro. I don't personally use Haro. So yeah, probably couldn't give you a good answer on that one.
Okay. He'd also like to know what the average money you spend is when getting links to your clients.
Yeah, so it's super industry specific, just based on, like, usually it's closely correlated to the SEO competition in a specific industry. But generally, I'd say 200 to 500 a link is a good reference point.
Okay. I noticed my competitor getting over 11,000 link from a single website. Can I report this website to Google?
You could, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting a ton of value from that link. Like if it's a footer link or something, generally they're not going to get a ton of value out of that. So in my opinion, I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay, how can we get this presentation because it holds interesting formulas? Okay, I answered that before. We will be sending all the presentations to the people that have applied for this event after the event. Yeah. And thank you, Cody, for sharing yours as well. Okay, there's the last question by Manikandan. Hi, Cody, thanks for helping my link building strategy to the next level. What could be the appropriate distribution for anchor text? Can I still continue only on the exact match and LSI?
Yeah, so it's always SERP dependent. So when you're thinking about anchor text, what you want to do is look at what the distribution is for that specific keyword that you're trying to rank for, and then like if you have the ability to do this, like the best approach would be, like, let's say you can get 5 different links, and obviously you want to match that distribution to whatever the competitive landscape looks like. You definitely want the exact match anchor text to be your stronger links. You'll just get more value out of them. So if there's a way to do that, then great. Usually you don't have that option, but that is definitely something to keep in mind. The other thing too, and I haven't done any testing on this, and so this is more like speculation than anything, but let's say you start building links, and like your first couple links, you're like, all right, well, I know I'm going to build 10 links, and let's say I know I want to build 100 links, and I know I want 5% to be exact match. I'd usually stray away from the first 5 links I build being exact match anchors. Then at that point, your distribution is 100% exact match. And yeah, that, again, when it comes to link building, there's not an exact science, but I always err on the edge of caution. And so, yeah, that's how we approach it. So that's what I would recommend.
Great. Awesome, Cody. Thanks a lot for that. The final question is regarding the recordings. We are recording this, and we will be putting it, we will be uploading it and sending it to all the participants as well.